Tonight on CFTK-TV News, BC's Premier says he isn't ruling out building a new pipeline. Cold and flu season has arrived in Canada, and a weekly trade journal is running a treasure hunt.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Monday, December 1st, 2025. I'm Jaylene Matthews. BC's Premier says he isn't ruling out the plan to build a new pipeline across the province after Ottawa and Alberta came to an agreement that has had plenty of critics. But David Eby says a ban on oil tankers has to remain in place if there are to be discussions. With more on that, here's CTV's John Venevali-Rao.
Just days ago, BC's Premier stepped up to a microphone and suggested the pipeline agreement he was left out of was never going to amount to anything.
No proponent, no route, no money, no First Nation support.
But on CTV's question period, David Eby now says he is open to discussing a pipeline project running through his province if there are no changes to the federal tanker ban.
If we can agree that the oil tanker ban is going to stay in place, then let's have those conversations. I think that would make life a lot better and easier in British Columbia in terms of our relationship with coastal First Nations, and would definitely take down the temperature.
Put in place 6 years ago, the ban prohibits larger tankers from docking at ports along BC's north coast if they're carrying lots of crude or certain types of oil. It's in place to protect some delicate ecosystems. Eby says an exemption would anger First Nations groups and put existing energy projects in jeopardy, and suggested another option, increasing capacity of the existing Trans Mountain pipeline.
Trying to find a path forward, trying to de-escalate tensions with our neighbors, trying to understand their concerns, what they would like to do, and I really hope they do the same for us.
The Memorandum of Understanding, signed this week with Alberta, has already cost the Prime Minister a cabinet minister and longtime environmentalist. And Alberta Premier Danielle Smith was booed by grassroots members when she said this at her party's annual general meeting.
I hope people today feel a lot more confident that Canada works than they did a couple of days ago.
As for BC's Premier, he had vehemently opposed a new bitumen pipeline, and some noting a change in tone.
Eby is not slamming the door. He's not having a fit. He wants some of the projects that of his own that involve fossil fuels, especially liquefied natural gas, to go through. And he mentions tens of billions of dollars of current projects and tens of billions more.
Meanwhile, Eby has also said he'd like to explore things like boosting the country's capacity to refine petroleum as opposed to buying gas from the U.S. John Venevali-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
Mark Miller is Canada's new Culture and Identity Minister. He has officially joined Prime Minister Mark Carney's cabinet in a ceremony this afternoon at Rideau Hall. He replaces Stephen Guilbeault in the role. Guilbeault is a lifelong environmentalist and quit cabinet on Thursday in protest of Ottawa's new pact with Alberta on a proposed pipeline. And now we have a report on a major contest that is giving Canadians the chance to win a large amount of gold and is located in northwestern BC's Golden Triangle. CFTK-TV's Kale Maslin explains further.
A weekly trade journal that mainly reports on Canada's mining industry is in the midst of running a treasure hunt that could end up being life-changing for the people that find the hidden prizes. The Northern Miner has organized an event known as the Great Canadian Treasure Hunt, and their president went on to explain what was hidden and how the hunt works.
At the time that we put this all together, which was in May of this year, the idea was $1 million worth of gold coins. That worked out to something like 215 gold coins as of May, but then of course the gold price ran up. So it's the same amount of gold coins, but they're worth more. So that's one big treasure that's now worth, I think, over $1.1 million. That's somewhere in Canada. And then in addition to that, we decided we would do some regional prizes. So 12 regional separate treasures, each one, which is worth about $30,000 in gold coins. The first one was already found. It was found outside of Dawson City. Then we're going to do one a month. Then the next month, we did one in Cobalt, Ontario, and that was found. And then why we're here talking today is because now the third one is in BC. So BC's first one.
That gold is located somewhere in the Golden Triangle, and the way that people can find it is by deciphering the clues inside of the unique stories that are released alongside every announcement of the general area that the next gold batch is located in. Each story is also tailored to the region that gets announced as well. 9 more of those smaller gold prizes are set to be announced on a monthly basis throughout the next year, so where the next prizes pop up remains to be seen. Anthony Vaccaro also went on to reveal what the main inspiration behind the hunt was.
We did definitely receive some inspiration from a gentleman named Fenn down in the U.S. There's a documentary on Fenn's treasure. A gentleman, an art dealer that hit $1 million worth of gold treasures and trinkets. He physically put them in a box and put them out there. He did it on his own to try to sell his biography because the clues were in the book, so it was a clever way to get the book to being sold.
The northern miner was able to gather all that gold thanks to companies like Agnico Eagle Mines, Sprott Money, Alamos Gold, and the World Gold Council. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Kale Maslin.
Coming up next, kidney disease advocates push for answers. Trans Mountain CEO Mark Mackey says its pipeline has been running at close to full capacity, underscoring the need for further expansion. Mackey says the pipeline, stretching from Edmonton to Burnaby, has been running at 90% capacity or higher since the end of September. The Crown-owned pipeline operator is planning to expand capacity, including adding 30 kilometers of new pipe, with construction starting as early as mid-2027. The federal government bought the pipeline in 2018 for $4.5 billion after Kinder Morgan walked away from the project, and the pipeline ended up costing more than $34 billion by its 2024 startup date. An Alberta man fighting a lifelong battle with kidney disease is advocating for others to seek care early. CTV's Kathy Lee reports.
Cellcept and tacrolimus.
All of this is the armor that makes every day possible for Sean Delaney.
When you have a transplant, you need to look after it by suppressing your immune system.
The 54-year-old's battle with chronic kidney disease began before he could walk.
I had a urinary tract blockage when I was a month old, so I lost my left kidney by Christmas.
His only kidney carried him until 27. Then it failed. 2 transplants would follow, the first from his younger brother Peter, the second 2 decades later from Brenda, a friend of a friend.
There's lots of things I couldn't have done without my brother's kidney, and I couldn't have done this without her kidney.
New data shows 1 in 10 Canadians now live with chronic kidney disease, and even after adjusting for population growth and aging, the national death rate has soared more than 70% since 1990, markedly higher than the global average.
We're not detecting them in time. We're not deploying the treatments that we know reduce mortality, prevent progressive kidney function loss, and other adverse outcomes.
Now, a call for a national framework to enhance kidney health surveillance, ensure equitable access to care, and coordinate early detection.
The most important way of doing that is really to have a blood test and a urine test, 2 very simple tests that you can request from your doctor. Most people don't develop symptoms of chronic kidney disease until they're very late in the disease trajectory.
You're good.
For Delaney, the fatigue, the nausea, the waiting are finally behind him. What remains is gratitude and a life he refuses to take for granted.
Tomorrow's not promised, and so I am taking every chance and every opportunity.
And every moment doing the things he loves outdoors with the people who fuel his fight.
I get to spend time with my grandsons now. My oldest grandson's now 7. We hit 4 mountain summits last year together.
And Delaney says there are many more summits still to climb. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
A Vancouver Island group has repeatedly returned to Ukraine, volunteering with projects and missions in the country. CTV's Anna McMillan reports.
Yes, we are now committed to our 5th deployment.
A celebration in Langford for a small group of humanitarians and its supporters who've delivered hundreds of thousands of dollars in aid to war-torn Ukraine.
Each trip we see more and more headstones, we see more and more flags.
Since the outset of the war, the team, known as Vancouver Island Supports Ukraine, has traveled there 4 times, supplying communities with food, medical equipment, generators, and more.
We'd like to go as soon as possible.
Go back to Ukraine for their 5th deployment, meaning they'll need to lean on the local donors they're celebrating.
Those donors have been instrumental in making all of this possible.
CTV's Brendan Strain is part of the team, broadcasting stories from each mission.
Every single time that we go back, the situation gets worse. There's more rolling blackouts, there's fatigue, there's more generators that are outside of businesses to keep the lights on.
For Mission 5, the primary goal is to establish a blood transfusion ward in a children's hospital in western Ukraine.
Every day we have a drone attack, we have a rocket attack in our region.
That's a doctor at the hospital, which needs $50,000 for the ward.
When a child comes in and they're in the OR, they're relying on having that blood product available to them immediately.
They want to raise another $40,000 to help 4 communities with smaller projects.
You always hope for things to get better, because there is no other way you can win this war.
Team lead Bob Beckett has another mission here at home that could offer more hope. He wants to establish programming in local schools to teach kids about global citizenship.
And develop tomorrow's leaders, leaders that believe in peace, leaders that work on equity both at home and abroad.
As the team prepares for its next mission, there's hope it could be their last, but an understanding that likely won't be the case as peace talks with Russia drag on.
At the end of the day, there's nothing that tells me that this war is coming to a conclusion anytime soon.
Making their fundraising efforts all the more meaningful and urgent as they look to their community for support. Anna McMillan, CTV News, Langford.
Turning now to your Northwest BC weather report. Tonight on the North Coast, expect conditions to be cloudy with a 60% chance of showers, winds from the west at 20 kilometers an hour, becoming light this evening, a low of 6 degrees. Over the next few days on the North Coast, expect temperatures to stay relatively temperate in the 6 to 9 degree range, while overnight lows are expected to remain between 4 and 7 degrees. Tonight in the Terrace-Kitimat area, expect periods of rain ending late this evening, then cloudy with a 60% chance of drizzle. Fog patches developing after midnight, temperatures steady at +2 degrees. Over the next few days in the Terrace-Kitimat area, expect temperatures to warm up a little and rain, but maybe cooler temperatures and snow coming towards the weekend. Daily highs to 4 degrees, overnight lows from -1 to 3 degrees. Tonight in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, it's looking partly cloudy, winds up to 15 kilometers an hour, a low of -8, wind chill -7 this evening and -12 overnight. Over the next few days in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, you're looking at some sun and some snow. Daily highs from freezing to 2 degrees, overnight lows between freezing and -8 degrees. And checking your highways around Northwest BC now. On Highway 16, there is bridge maintenance and road maintenance on Haida Gwaii. Also water pooling, compact snow, and slippery sections throughout. On Highway 37, watch for utility work, also slippery sections and compact snow. On Highway 37A, there's an industrial traffic closure tonight at 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. The road will be closed from Davis Street to the Mesiaden Junction. Also a section with falling rocks, bridge maintenance, slippery sections, and compact snow. On Highway 118, there are slippery sections and compact snow. On the Niska Highway, slushy, slippery sections. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, the flu that's spreading fast this year. Cold and flu season has arrived in Canada, and a lot of sickness is now quickly spreading across many parts of the country. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth has more on the dreaded viruses impacting Canadians.
It's cold and flu season, which is why Chris Butler recently decided to be proactive and get her shots before the winter weather sets in.
I am safe, but I'm still doing the wash my hands and that kind of thing. And I don't like to go to any event if it's really crowded.
New data from Health Canada shows flu cases jumped to more than 2,100 last week, up from close to 1,400 the previous week. The population most affected by the flu are people 65 and older. That's why Bill Van Gorder is urging his fellow seniors to wear a mask and be up to date with vaccinations.
Your flu shot, your COVID shot, your RSV shot. Remember, if you get one of those other respiratory diseases, the chances of you also picking up the flu are very strong.
Some children's hospitals across the country have implemented mask mandates and have added extra healthcare staff, expecting an influx of flu patients this season. Infectious disease specialist Dr. Lisa Barrett says there are concerns this year's flu vaccine is not a perfect match for the strains spreading in Canada.
It still does prevent hospitalizations and ICU admissions in many people, and also there are other strains that are well matched still that might not be as common but are still floating around, and this vaccine will still protect you against those.
According to Dr. Barrett, there are also fears this version of the flu virus could bring a lot of sickness.
We do know from the rest of the world that we're starting to see influenza go up, and it's been a crappy influenza season in other parts of the world, so likely it's going to be a tough one here too.
Dr. Lisa Barrett says sometimes people think they have a cold when actually it's the flu, which can lead to severe symptoms and sometimes other complications. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
A difficult day for some 1,000 employees with Algoma Steel. They've been laid off as the company, reeling from Donald Trump's 50% tariffs, passed out pink slips. The company is a huge exporter of steel to the Americans and has been feeling the pain. CTV's Abigail Biman on the Sault Ste. Marie company and how it was forced to go down this road.
This is a massive blow to the steel industry and specifically to 1,000 Algoma workers and their families. 1,000 layoff notices for a company that employs about 2,700 people in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. The company blamed U.S. tariffs for the layoff, saying in a statement, "These tariffs have fundamentally altered the competitive landscape and sharply limited our ability to access the U.S. market. As a result of these pressures, Algoma has been forced to conclude its long history as an integrated steel manufacturer and close its blast furnace and coke-making operations in early 2026. Algoma will transition to electric arc furnace steelmaking at that time, a year earlier than previously anticipated or planned. Both the federal and provincial government took steps to try and reinforce the company. In September, Ottawa announced a $400 million loan, Ontario $100 million.
Our thoughts are with them. The Prime Minister looked them in the eye and promised he would protect their jobs, that he would negotiate a win, and I quote, have a deal by July 21st, but it was a bait and switch that is costing people their livelihoods.
My team and I have been in contact with Algoma's leadership team. We absolutely have every confidence in the Algoma workers as they're going through this hardship, and we will make sure that we support them as they're developing new products and also accessing new markets.
No specifics from the feds about how they will support them, while Ontario says it's launching a local centre for impacted workers, including retraining. The layoffs take effect in March of next year. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
Turning to the markets now, Canada's main stock index finished more than 280 points lower, weighed down by losses in the technology sector, while U.S. stock markets also fell. The Canadian dollar had no change. Gold was up $19.90. Oil was up 77 cents. Natural gas was up 5 cents. Aluminum was up $21.50. In Toronto, the TSX was down 281 points. The Venture Index was up 3 points. In New York, the Nasdaq was down 90 points and the Dow Jones was down 427 points. A man has been charged following the shooting of 2 members of the American National Guard, which left 1 dead and 1 critically injured. ABC's Pierre Thomas reports.
This morning, new details in the deadly National Guard ambush investigation. Ramanella Lakanawal of Afghanistan facing murder in the first degree after 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom died from gunshot wounds sustained when he allegedly opened fire on her and her fellow West Virginia National Guardsman, Andrew Wolf. Over the weekend, a candlelight vigil to mourn Beckstrom, along with a solemn honor escort near the U.S. Capitol. Wolf, who is only 24, remains at a D.C. area hospital with serious wounds.
Andrew is fighting for his life right now.
The FBI has interviewed family and associates of the 29-year-old suspect and tried to exploit documents and other material obtained through searches of mobile devices, his social media footprint, and properties tied to him.
We believe he could have been radicalized in his home community and in his home state.
But thus far, authorities have not publicly released any specific evidence tying the suspect to a specific terrorist organization. And while the investigation into potential terrorism ties remains active, officials say they're also seeing signs of financial stress and a potential mental health crisis. Sources telling ABC News Lakanawal was vetted by and worked with the CIA during the war in Afghanistan. He was brought into the U.S. under the Biden administration in 2021 through the program Operation Allies Welcome and was granted asylum by the Trump administration in April. Law enforcement sources telling ABC News he was unemployed and deeply impacted by the death of one of his Afghan commanders. Sources say in recent days he had been isolated and increasingly distant from family and friends. Pierre Thomas, ABC News, Washington.
Canadian historians are working to identify remains found belonging to a Canadian soldier long past. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver reports.
Nearly 110 years ago, a Canadian soldier was one of more than 2,200 other Canadians who died on the Western Front, fighting to capture Hill 70 in the German stronghold of Lens, France.
These are his collar badges, so his C-13 collar badges.
Now, historians are close to finally identifying the unknown soldier, whose remains were uncovered during construction in France almost 10 years ago.
Casualty identification is a commitment, both to the Canadian Armed Forces, to the families of the missing, and to the dead themselves.
The soldier was found with coins, nail clippers, a comb, and a shoe, but it's these collar badges that narrowed down the search. The man served with the 13th Battalion Royal Highlanders of Canada, and an analysis of his remains show he was in his early 20s when he died, and between 5'5" and 5'8½". Clues that helped Canada's casualty identification team come up with a short list that includes Private Patrick Kirk, who enlisted in 1914.
Private Kirk was originally from St. John's in Newfoundland. We know this from his attestation paper. And we know that he's working as a miner in Stellarton, Nova Scotia when the war broke out. With Private Kirk, however, there are a lot of unknowns.
One of those unknowns, his name, spelled Kirk, Quirk, and even Quick. That's why the team at National Defense is asking anyone who thinks the name sounds familiar to contact them. Without a relative's DNA sample, the wartime mystery can't be solved.
Private Kirk is on our short list of candidates. He's in the right place at the right time, or rather the wrong place at the wrong time, given this context. But what this means is, with this identification process, we really need a viable DNA donor.
The goal is to give this unknown soldier his name back so he can receive a full military funeral in front of his family and finally be buried with a tombstone bearing his name and regiment. Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News, Ottawa.
And that's all our news for now. Thanks for watching.